Hey, Jackie, if you could turn off your video until we get to your item, that would be really helpful. Thank you.
So Delta and Mr. Flood, we're going to have people turn off their video until we get to your item because we have a land use public hearing and a couple other items first, if you don't mind. Thank you.
This is Mayor Bob. Welcome, everyone. I'm going to open our session for our City of Mccall regular meeting of the City Council, July 23rd. It's now 5:30, and I'm going to ask our City Clerk, Bessie Jo, to please conduct the roll call for council members.
Mayor Giles.
Here.
Councilmember Holmes.
Present.
Councilmember Matezek.
Present.
Councilmember Nielsen.
Yes.
Councilmember Sowers. Tom did let me know that he may be a little bit late. He's in transit, but he'll let us know as soon as he joins.
Thank you, Bessie Jo. At this time, if everyone could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So before we kick off our first agenda bill item, which is a public hearing, the approval of the Flynn subdivision, I wanted to quickly go over some of our guidelines and rules that we have. We've been learning a lot in terms of how to conduct effective meetings during the COVID-19 situation. Since we are functioning in a virtual environment, it seems to work really well if council members and the members of the public would follow these rules. So as the mayor and speaking for the council, I would ask that all members of the public please mute their phones. This is, as I mentioned earlier, the city council's meeting, and members of the public should not interrupt or speak unless invited by myself, the mayor, or the city clerk. If any member of the public does interrupt the meeting, they will be disconnected from the meeting. Thank you for your help with that. Couple of quick housekeeping items. We're going to approve the amended agenda, the consent agenda, and then we'll begin the public hearing on the Flynn subdivision. Would council please make a motion to approve the agenda as amended?
Bob, this is Melanie. I make a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
Thank you, Melanie. Is there a second?
Second, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. The motion to approve the amended agenda has been made and seconded. All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed to approving the amended agenda, excuse me, say nay. Motion passes. The amendment is approved as amended. Would someone from the council please make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I move we approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, Colby. Is there a second?
This is Melanie.
Thank you, Melanie. Motion has been made and seconded to approve the consent agenda. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Machezek,
Yes.
Thank you, Bessie Jo. The motion passes. The consent agenda is approved. We can begin our public hearing. This is Agenda Bill 20-2210. It's a request for approval of the Flynn Subdivision Preliminary Plat, SUB-20-01. And this is an action item. For a hearing such as this, there are many steps that we move through to make sure it's a very complete process. So let me outline just the first 4 steps and we'll begin. Step 1 is I'll explain what the purpose of the public hearing is. Second step, the city staff will present and provide comments on the application. Third step is the mayor, myself. I will ask each council member by name if they have any questions of the staff, and then our applicant will present the project. Those are the first 4 steps to get us started. So step 1, purpose of the public hearing is to consider approval of the findings of fact, conclusions of law, decision documents for Flynn Subdivision SUB-20-01. So I will now turn it over to city staff to give us an overview and provide comments on the application.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Morgan Besaw, City Planner. As you mentioned, this agenda bill is for SUB 2001 Flynn Subdivision. I'm going to try to share my screen. So those that are on can hopefully see. Can people see that? It's kind of flashing weird on my screen, but is it flashing for everybody?
It is, but we can see it. It's just flashing, like you say, but it looks clear.
I don't understand why it's flashing. So, as I mentioned, this is a subdivision preliminary plat application. It is to divide one existing lot of just under 4 acres into 8 lots, with 7 lots of half an acre each and 1 lot of 0.42 acres respectively. On the preliminary plat in the bottom right corner, you can see a vicinity map. And so this subdivision is located just south of Ponderosa State Park. It's in an existing subdivision, so there's chipmunk, conifer, strawberry, and then Flynn Lane is existing there on the north. And this proposed subdivision is the area highlighted in red that says Flynn Estates. So this area is pretty well developed already. There's existing water and sewer infrastructure in the road. There's an existing road. This application is not proposing any new roads, any new parking areas, anything like that. In fact, due to the size of the development, it's small size in nature. No PUD was required, in conjunction with this application, which is why you're not going to see amenities or open space as you would see with a PUD application. Also, due to the small number of lots, there's also no parks donation requirement, which you've seen with other parks, or I'm sorry, other subdivision applications. So it's due to the small size that it's a much smaller application that I'm presenting tonight. This area is zoned R4, low density residential, which per code would allow lots of about 10,000 square feet, which is approximately a quarter acre. So this is an area that has zoning density of about a quarter acre. That's what about all the existing lots in that neighborhood on Conifer, Strawberry, Chipmunk are right now, are quarter acre lots. These lots as proposed are approximately half an acre each, so they're larger than most of the lots over there by twice the size. I'm really sorry about this. I have no idea what's happening with the flashing. I don't know. Anyways, so the density that they're proposing is about half of what code would permit. You can see the lots on the top. That is not a road cutting through the middle. That's an existing power line easement. The power line currently cuts through these lots about halfway. And so that easement's there. One of the requirements of this application is that they are undergrounding the overhead utilities, those power lines, across this section of subdivision to be in compliance with our current code, which requires undergrounding of utilities for new subdivisions. As I mentioned, the development will be accessed by the existing Flynn. It's already providing an interconnected street system. It has access to both Carico Lane and Balshi Drive, which connects to, I believe, Pilgrim Cove Road. Flynn is not designated for any additional pathway improvements in the Mccall area's pathways master plan. During its regularly scheduled May 5th, 2020 meeting, the Mccall Area Planning and Zoning Commission held a properly noticed public hearing and unanimously recommended this application to the Mccall City Council for approval. During that Planning and Zoning Commission hearing, there was 0 written testimony and 0 public testimony provided on this application. So no neighbors spoke out for or against this application during the P&Z process. There are some outstanding conditions of approval that I will read for you now. The first is, prior to any site work or disturbance, the applicant shall receive final engineering approval. The following 5 items that I am going to read are conditions and comments from the city engineer that they would have to address to receive final engineering approval. 1, that the existing water line easement shall remain clear of all structures. No trees shall be planted within this easement. No development structures or storage of any kind shall be allowed within the 12-foot snow storage and utility easement across the front of the parcels, with the exception of permitted drive approaches. 3, a roadside drainage ditch shall be required across the entire frontage of the parcels. Such ditch shall be 2 feet deep with a 3-to-1 slope size. The engineer shall contact the streets department to discuss specifics. 4, drive approaches shall be permitted by the Public Works Department at the time of development of each parcel. Drive approaches shall be located a minimum of 10 feet from the property line, such that the minimum space between any 2 drive approaches shall not be less than 20 feet. Drainage culverts may be required. Water service to each parcel shall be required at the time of development of each parcel. Capitalization and connection fees shall be paid at the then current rates in effect. So those are the engineering comments on this application. The second condition of approval was, prior to issuance of a building permit for any lot, proof of sewer permit payment shall be provided. 3, as I mentioned, all existing overhead utility lines shall be relocated underground. 4, prior to execution and recordation of the final plat, so that you will see this application at a future date for the final plat. But prior to execution and recordation of the final plat, the applicant shall construct all required street improvements and underground the overhead utility lines, and shall obtain final approval of these aspects from the city of Mccall. Alternatively, if they want to record the final plat before they finish those public improvements, the applicant shall obtain approval of a development agreement with the city and provide financial assurances. 5, pursuant to Mccall City Code, preliminary subdivision plat approvals shall lapse and become void if they have not applied for final plat within 18 months or submitted approval with a development agreement for a detailed phasing plan. 6. Prior to execution and recordation of this final plat, the applicant shall provide digital files of the plat in accordance with the Mccall digital data submission standards. 7. Prior to execution and recordation of the subdivision final plat, all easements shall be indicated on the final plat and shall be formally documented with signed declarations and recorded with the plat. 8. A full set of as-built record drawings for the improvements for public use and maintenance shall be submitted to the city within 60 days of the completion of construction. And 9. If a local improvement district, or LID, is formed by the property owners on Flynn for the paving of the street before May of 2022, then the applicant shall be responsible for the cost of construction along the length of the subdivision to the center line and shall participate in the LID. So the purpose of this last condition is a little bit unusual. Everything else was fairly standard. Generally with the subdivision, you would have more street improvements because they would be creating a new street through the subdivision or creating new access. This subdivision, as I mentioned, was rather small. So city staff did talk about requiring pavement of the portion of street in front of the subdivision, but we did not want to have a floating island sort of asphalt paving. So there was discussion of having the applicant submit those payments to the city, and at such time as we paved that subdivision, those dollars would be used to pave this section of the street. That was presented originally, and the streets department was concerned that this street is so far down our list of streets that are going to be paved. It could be, 10, 20, plus years before it was paved, and these monies would just be sitting there, sort of unused. We just have no idea when we're gonna get there. So this pot of money would just, generally there's a time frame. You'd say, okay, if this money is not used by a certain date, it would revert back to the property owner. And we just don't have enough information to know. This property or this neighborhood has talked about doing a local improvement district where, all property owners contribute a small amount of money and pave the road. At the time, I think it was decided that it was expensive and not feasible. So this project is sort of a good motivation for that neighborhood possibly to come together and do this local improvement district because there's going to be a larger pot of money put in by this project. So we wanted to have that condition in there saying if the neighborhood uses this as motivation to move forward with the district, that this applicant would be responsible for this section of road in front of their subdivision. And the applicant is here on the phone tonight, I believe, also to present and answer any questions that the council may have.
Thank you, Morgan. So what we're going to do is, our next step is I'm going to run through the rotation, and Bessie Joe, please let me know when Tom Sowers joins us so I can call on him. So I will run through the council real quickly and ask if you have questions of Morgan, Besaw, or any other city staff. Let's start with Mike.
Thanks, Bob. I don't have any questions. I reviewed the documents, information, appreciate Morgan's laying it all out, and I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Mike. Melanie?
I actually don't have any questions either. I thought it was very well laid out.
Thank you, Melanie. Colby?
Yeah, I guess on that last condition, so how does that follow into when these lots are sold off? Does that follow along with the ownership of those lots?
Well, so if someone bought a property in this area and it was a LID, so the new property owner would also be subject to the LID because they would be owning property within this district. But I don't think that would remove this requirement. The developer, if it is by May 21st, 2022, the developer would still be, I believe, obligated for their portion of, providing funds that would be equivalent to the cost to do this portion of road.
I got it. I see that date in there now. That's a bit odd. Yeah, I don't really have anything else. It's unfortunate that we're not getting a more dense
Times like it did in the regular.
of lots here.
So to that point, I will say that it's, when you have long, skinny lots, it's a little bit harder to get the density rather than if you have, a wider, less deep parcel. Just because for the R4 zone, we also have this 75-foot minimum street frontage. And so these lots are, as narrow as they're allowed to go. And they're extra square footage because they're so deep. So to get a denser development in this area, you would have to make it a PUD so that we could alleviate some of these other development standards, such as parcel width minimums, to get that additional density in there. You couldn't do it with a straight subdivision plat.
Yeah, I get it. I'm just not real excited about more quote unquote cabins and vacation homes. Anyways, that's all I got.
Thank you, Colby. Thank you, Morgan. Morgan, would you please introduce the applicant? And at this time, we would like to hear from the applicant about this project.
Sure.
Excuse me, this is Bessie Joe. I just wanted to let you know that Tom has joined the meeting.
Thank you. Tom, let me back up just a minute. We just started the overall briefing on our public hearing for the Flynn Lane subdivision. I believe there's 4 parcels. We have a really good completed package, and I wanted to know if you had any questions of Morgan about what was in your packet.
No, I don't. It was really well presented. I did hear the whole briefing, so I got on a couple minutes late, but I'm trying to change from my phone to my computer right now. So I'm listening on one item.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate you being able to track us. All right, so let's introduce the applicant and have a presentation on Flynn Lane.
The applicant and property owner is Tyson Wise. So Tyson, if you're on the phone.
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, wonderful. Mayor Giles and city council members, thank you for your time and service in reviewing the subdivision application. Morgan did a wonderful job of presenting the package and what I'm trying to achieve with this subdivision. I think the only thing that I would add, just for clarification, is the power line that goes to the property currently. We will abandon that easement and bury the power line and bring it up to the front, bring it down the west side of the property line and to the front there on Flynn Lane and bury it in the utility easement, and then run it down Flynn Lane to the east and then up north and connect it to the existing power pole that's relatively on my neighbor's property, his easement for Idaho Power. So that's all I'd have to add just as far as for clarification. As Morgan mentioned, it's going to be 8 basically half-acre residential lots. And they will all front off of Flynn.
Thank you for explaining that. Yeah, I appreciate that extra information about where the underground power would go. That makes sense.
Yeah, and in talking with Sherry at Idaho Power, the transformers that'll be on the ground, it'll be laid out when I go for final plat, but they'll basically sit on the front of those lots and then tie in, to the homes as needed.
Makes sense. Thank you very much. All right, at this time, council, I'm going to call on you individually to see if you have questions. Tom, I'll start with you. All right, let's move ahead to Mike. Do you have questions for our applicant?
I do not have any questions. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you, Mike. Melanie?
None here, thank you.
Colby?
No questions.
Thank you, Colby. And I do not have any questions either. Tom, are you able to hear me? And if so, do you have any questions for our applicant?
Yes, sir. I can hear you fine. No questions at this time.
Thanks, Tom. All right, Morgan Visa, I'm going to ask you if you would read into the record whether you have received any written correspondence regarding this agenda bill and this hearing.
Sure. So as I mentioned, there was no public comment during the planning and zoning process, but we have received 2 comment submittals for tonight for council, and I will go ahead and read those in.
Thank you.
I don't normally, I mean, it's just a little different process. Do I read the full name and address, Bessie Joe, or just their comment?
Their full name and address and their comment and whether they're for or against.
Okay. So the first is from Sam Artis, 2273 Payette Drive, Mccall. They are neutral on the application, and their comment is, existing public lake access and related easements are both limited and contentious at this time. How will this development plan afford fair and equitable lake access to the general public? Specifically, with this development, or will this development plan address affordable housing for the local economy and working class residents of Mccall? What concessions will the developer have to make to improve the local infrastructure, such as water, roads, sewer, police, fire, and to address the additional population of Mccall and Valley County? How will existing highways 55 and 95 handle the increased traffic associated with this development without significant improvements? And who will pay for those improvements? The second comment is from Pat Artis, 3602 South Vintage Way, Boise, Idaho. They are against this application. They said, there is not enough financial information available to date. Follow the money, show the money. Are there foreign entities involved? We don't need or want another Tamarack-styled collapse. How will this impact the future development of Tamarack? Or is this in direct competition to the future of Tamarack?
Thank you, Morgan. Bessie Jill, were there any other comments filed? I can't remember on this public hearing whether there was like a 3 p.m. deadline today or whether we have people online waiting to talk to us tonight.
Those were all the written ones. At this time, you could call, see if there is anybody on the line that wants to make public testimony for this item only.
Okay, so we do have someone on the line, or we do not?
I do not know if we have anybody on the line. You can just ask, I can just ask if there's anybody on the line that would like to make comment on this item only, please speak up.
Thank you, Bessie Jill. This is Mayor Bob. If there is anyone that's joining us tonight virtually by telephone or Teams environment, would you please state your name and address? And you're allowed 3 minutes to talk to us, the council, about your thoughts about this specific item, the Flynn subdivision. Let the record show there is no public comment on July 23rd during this agenda bill's allotted time slot. So we're going to move on to step 8, which is where our applicant gets to provide a rebuttal, which is an opportunity to respond to any of the questions, comments, or suggestions that were made by the 2 letters that Morgan Visa read to us.
Yeah, Tyson again. Oh, can you hear me okay?
Yes, Tyson, go ahead.
Thank you. Well, I guess as far as outside entities who, I guess, address that issue, I'm a 3rd-generation Idahoan, born and raised in Boise, spent a lot of time in Mccall, love this area, and enjoy spending time with my family here. So there's really no outside money, just my own, and want an investment for my family down the road since my cabin is 2 doors down, and for those who want to enjoy the area as well. I'm not sure how to even address the Highway 55 comment and those issues, so I'll just leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Tyson. I appreciate you being brief and explaining that, and that came through pretty well in our packet as well. At this time, council may ask questions of staff or the applicant. Tom, do you have any questions of Tyson or of any of our staff?
No, I don't have any questions at this time at all.
Thank you, Tom. Mike?
None, thank you.
Melanie?
None at all. Thank you very much.
Colby?
I guess the only question I would have for Tyson is why have you not considered trying to pursue any sort of local housing development here or try to help solve our housing problem?
Yeah, as far as affordable housing.
Yeah, or even housing opportunities for people. It seems like this is probably going to gear people up for being fairly inaccessible for most local residents.
Well, and I don't know how this sits in the code, but let me see if I can speak to that a little bit. The nice thing about these lots is when I spoke with the Lakeshore sewer, each of these lots can have 2 separate hookups as far as sewer, and it's not going to affect their line downstream. So there's potential if someone, say, had this as a vacation home or a second home, as you will, they built like a shop or a garage, they could certainly potentially put a studio apartment above that and use that as an opportunity for workforce housing or some type of rental opportunity. So there's potentially that option. As far as just as other affordable or type things for, people in Mccall, if that's an outside discussion, I'd love to sit down with you and Mayor Giles, because I do have some ideas potentially on that and some just some other people I work with in the Boise area that I think could potentially help solve some of those issues. So I know that's sort of a separate from this application, but wanted to address your concerns in that. And then as far as I know, you had mentioned you wish you could have seen more density. In some of my preliminary conversations with my neighbors, when that original 4 acres was actually an 8-acre parcel that was sold as one parcel, and there was another individual who took 4 to the west and I took 4 to the east. There was a lot of concern from the neighbors of just like somebody trying to come in there and do lots of density, and some of the neighbors talked to, they really like how this part of the Mccall, close to the park, the lots are a relatively nice size. It keeps some really great open space, good flow for wildlife. So I took that into consideration before I even drew up this plan and went this route. So, and as Morgan alluded to, we have to conform to the 75 feet wide lots. So hope that addresses your question.
Yeah, it does for sure. I appreciate the answer. Yeah, I think we have just recently formed a housing advisory committee, so we have some input on ideas for workforce and local housing. We encourage you to get in touch with the city and about that.
Yeah, I'll if I could get your information from maybe Morgan, can you email it to me and I can reach out to you? Because this is a second home to me, but I spend my summers up here in the summer and then every weekend at Brundage. So I'm pretty invested in this community, even though I consider it my second home.
Sure, I appreciate it that we have a lot of those residents here.
Yep.
We also value greatly. I guess the only other thing would be for Morgan. I'm kind of a little bit concerned on the last item on for the requirement to become part of the local improvement district if it happens before May 1st, 2022. I mean, is there any way to get that to extend beyond there? It seems like that would give them, future owners of these properties, the ability to not become part of that local improvement district.
So that date is specifically for this developer. I mean, if someone purchased a parcel and then it would become part of a local improvement district, I mean, they would still be part of that local improvement district. They wouldn't be exempt. So this date is specific for this developer, as was asked earlier. So even if they sold these parcels, I mean.
But I mean, I guess in theory, that's 8 votes in the local improvement district of whether or not they would want to have it. So 8 votes automatically being for it.
Sure. I think if we were to extend the date, I mean, you would either do it now as part of these findings, or you'd have to modify them at a later date, which could be, you know, challenging. I'm not sure. It's not a development agreement, so I think if you wanted to extend the date, you would do it now. You know, if you wanted to add a year to that condition or something.
Is Bill on the line? Any legal advice on that one?
I am on the line. Thank you. So, I mean, really, it's more of a policy decision than it is a legal decision. I think that, you know, Morgan sort of laid it out that if the city council wants to make that change, you'd probably want to continue the hearing and then, you know, update that in your findings for the next meeting. In the alternative, you know, it's not like you're without a method of doing this after approval today. It would just be much more protracted and difficult. And, you know, that's consistent with what Morgan said.
All right, so
That's all the questions I have.
thanks, Colby. So I will ask each council member, starting with Tom, run through our list. I have 2 questions for you. Based on what you have heard, do you want me to close the public hearing and proceed down the path of a motion to approve this subdivision and the paperwork, findings of fact, etc., that Morgan has brought to us? Or option 2, would you like to keep the public hearing open and consider extending the date for this LID as Colby discussed? So Tom, what's your opinion on that? Those 2 questions.
Oh, you know, I think we should close the public hearing at this time. I don't really see a lot of stuff that's too difficult. I was just reading through the CC&Rs for the neighborhood, and they seem to be pretty in line with code and all that stuff. So I don't see any problems at this time.
Okay, Mike?
My recommendation would be to close the public hearing and move towards making a motion.
Melanie?
Same, please.
Colby, what's your thoughts?
Well, sounds like everyone wants to keep moving forward, so let's do that.
Okay, I'll support that. I think that's reasonable. So I'm going to close the public hearing. Thanks to everyone who did participate, and thank you, Morgan, for helping us go through that. So at this time, I am looking for someone, a council member, to make a motion to approve. Let me look at my agenda, Bill, make sure I got this wording correctly. Okay, so we've held the public hearing, we just closed that. I would like someone to make a motion to approve the findings of fact, conclusions of law, decision documents for Flynn subdivision, SUB-20-01, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Bob, this is Melanie. I would like to make a motion to approve the findings of fact, conclusions of law, decision documents for Flynn subdivision, SUB-20-01, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Mike, second.
Thank you. Thank you both, council members. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the findings of fact, conclusions of law, decision documents for Flynn Subdivision, SUB-20-01, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Holmes,
Yes.
Councilmember Machezek,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Sauer,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen,
No.
Thank you, council. The motion passes. So we will move on to our next item. And I believe our next item is our general public comment. According to the agenda, Bill, public comment will only be accepted in writing prior to the meeting. And this is just general items, not specific to any agenda bill item. So all comments will be read aloud and 3 minutes are allotted to read each comment. Did we receive any comments, Bessie Jo?
No, we did not receive any written comments.
Okay, thank you. We'll next move along to our department reports for June. So let me get my notes out and catch up here. Okay. So, Annette, I was thinking what we would do is I have listed in front of me each department. And so I'll just start with you as a city manager and ask if anyone from council has questions that they would like to discuss with you on your department report. Tom, do you have any questions for Annette?
No, I don't have any at this time.
Mike?
No, thank you.
Melanie?
None for Annette. Thank you.
Thank you, Melanie. Colby?
I know it's not on your the monthly department report from before. Yeah, I guess I don't really have anything for you on this one.
Okay, let's move along to our airport manager, Rick Stein. Any questions for Rick from anyone on the council? Tom?
No, none at this time.
Mike?
None, thank you.
Melanie?
None for Rick. Thank you.
Colby?
Yeah, does anyone want to hear any updates on how the taxiway relocation project's going? I'd like to hear. I know that it's now officially begun. Can we get an update on any exciting news on that?
Well, I'm here onto the website, and right now the project is going on time and on schedule. We have completed milling off the asphalt and doing the grading, and right at the moment they're putting in the new sub base. Next week we have scheduled a runway closure because we need to tie the asphalt into the runway, and then we'll go to the phase 2 on August 3rd. Everybody has been notified that this is happening, and as I said, the construction is on schedule.
How's everyone been dealing with the construction at the airport? Have we had any big complaints or conflicts or anything with it?
No, not really. As far as the construction goes, the crews have been very good about cleaning up after themselves and staying in their own area. As far as the planes taxiing back and forth to the runway, The first day, we had maybe 2 or 3 airplanes pull up to the traffic cones and turned around. But then once on the second day, everybody pretty much was on the same page, and even the occasional confused pilot still was able to get back and forth to the runway.
Great, thanks. So I just.
And if I might share an additional information item, because we did get some questions about this from a few people, I think last week. So Knife River is staging and placing all of the excavated fill material for the project over on the parcel next door to Idaho Department of Lands on the corner of Dinehard and Spring Mountain. And so we did get a few questions from people wondering what IDL was up to, and that's just staging for this project. And some of that material will go back to the airport. And in exchange, the contractor agreed to grade it and not just leave big piles of dirt on it. So if you get any questions about that, that's the only thing happening on that site. It's purely related to the airport project.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you, Annette, Colby, and Rick. Any questions for Bessie Joe, City Clerk's office? Tom?
No, I don't have any.
Mike?
None, thank you.
Melanie?
I have one for Bessie Joe.
Yep, go ahead, please.
Okay, so I was reading through your report and I was looking at specifically the taxi and commercial transportation driver's licenses. And where it says that Uber and Lyft are exempt from any type of licensing and background checks, I was just wondering what we do for our local taxi service that actually does a majority of the work. I mean, it seems like they get to be exempt and come in, but there's no real service in town with them. Yet our prompt drivers are always around.
Yeah, well, for Lyft and Uber, the state legislature made it so that cities could not regulate them and require them to get background checks. So stating that the Lyft company and the Uber company does those background checks. So all of our local taxi license people have to go through a background check.
So what does the licensing look like? What kind of fees do they have incurred upon them?
It's $125 for a taxi license. It's just, and then for each, for the business license, the initial cost, and then $25 a year. And then for a 5-year driver's license is $125.
So max for each person is $250.
Well, it's so the business itself has to pay for the business license, and then for each taxi driver has to pay $125, but that driver's license is good for 5 years.
5 years. Okay, that answers my question. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Melanie. Colby, any questions for Bessie Joe, City Clerk?
Yeah, I guess just what are your thoughts on our 2 local option taxes for this year? I know we've moved a couple weeks further along and deeper into summer. We seen any trend changes from the spring?
Yes, actually the receipts are coming in for June and they're looking very promising, very similar to last June. So we just only have about 50% so far. This is the week that we get the majority of them. So we'll have more, of course, for the August 1st department reports, but June is looking better than we anticipated. It is a quarterly report, so the ones that have reported so far are monthly, and so the monthly June looks good. But it will be interesting to see how the 3 months, so the people that report quarterly and how they look.
And we'll talk a little bit more about that tomorrow during the budget work session. Linda has some information prepared, I believe.
Awesome. That's all I have.
Thank you, Colby. I have no questions for Bessie Joe. Let's move on to Michelle Grunewald, Community Economic Development. Tom, any questions for Michelle?
No, I don't have any questions.
Mike?
None, thank you.
Melanie?
None, thank you.
Colby?
No questions. I just had one comment. I'm sorry, scrolling through my stuff here. For MRA, it was recommended that we do the bank stabilization as well as pursue finishing that waterfront swim non-motorized area also.
Thank you for sharing that. Let's move on to Golf Course Superintendent Eric McCormick. Any questions for Eric's monthly report? Tom?
No, I don't have any questions.
Mike?
None, thank you.
Melanie?
None, thank you.
Colby?
How do you feel about the tournament coming up?
Well, we're moving on. We're ready. Staff-wise, we're getting prepped and mowed, and we're changing our mowing plans just to. We won't do an evening mow like we used to do, so staff is not have to be back in twice as many times, and we'll be ready for whatever goes on.
How's the summer been going? Has it been up, down, the same as years past?
We've been surprisingly busy. I think, and that might be part of what's showing in the LOT being steady, is that I think our rounds, our revenue is actually up this year, and it's been busy, but we actually went from 7-minute tee times out to 10-minute tee times, and flow has been good. They've been moving people through. So restaurant business is down some, but I think we've more than made that up in green fees. And I think season passes are even up this year.
Well, good to hear. Yeah, I hope everything's going well out there. That's all I have.
Thank you, Colby. Thanks, Eric.
You're welcome.
Chris Curtin, IT. Tom, any questions for information systems?
Well, it looked like our guys were doing the Syringa share. I saw a lot of the Syringa folks. Did they get all that completed?
I know that they've placed all the fiber. I don't know if they've completed all of the actual in-building work at this time. I believe that they're completed.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mike?
None for me.
Melanie?
None for me either.
Colby, any questions for Chris Curtin?
Nope. I bet we'll get a talk later.
Yeah, look, we're all looking forward to that. All right, let's move on to Meg Lochek, Library Director. Tom, any questions for Meg?
Nope, not at this time.
Mike?
None.
Melanie?
No, thank you.
Colby?
Good here.
Okay. Parks and Rec, Kurt Wolf. Any questions from Tom?
I saw Kurt in the paper, so I just wanted to congratulate him.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, good deal. That's always good news. Mike, any questions or comments for Kurt?
I don't have any questions or comments on the report. Kurt, I sent an email, totally off subject question, but the parcel of land that's owned by the city of Mccall down on the river, downstream, river right of Riverfront Park, is that in your domain?
Mike, I saw your email. I haven't had a chance to get the specifics on that. I wouldn't say it's necessarily in my domain. That is tied to wetland mitigation on another project, and I just couldn't remember what project that was. If Nathan or Michelle are on the phone, they might know off the top of their head. I just didn't have a chance today to look that up. Oh
yeah, no problem. Understand busy. I just came across that and doing some other research, and I was just surprised to see that we own that piece outside of city limits there.
Yeah,
so it was.
Yeah, it's in the floodplain, and I know it's pretty locked in with obligations for wetland mitigation on another project.
Oh, okay, that makes sense. Yeah, I don't have any other questions. Thanks and congratulations. You deserve every bit of accolades that you receive.
Thanks.
Melanie.
I don't have any questions for you, Kurt, but congratulations.
Again, thank you.
Colby?
Yeah, I don't think I have any questions, and congratulations as well. Nice picture, looking good.
No questions for me. Keep up the good work, Kurt. Congratulations. Let's move on to Police Chief Justin Williams. Any questions for the Police Chief, Tom?
How many mask citations did we issue since
one?
Just one? Okay.
Just one thus far.
Do you got any background, or are you allowed to give any background on that?
It's actually prosecuted under resist obstruct, and we'll discuss that later during our COVID discussion later on tonight. And there was one particular individual, very defiant, very outspoken, refused to comply, claimed no exemption, and was an employee of a particular business.
Okay. Thanks, Chief.
Yes, sir.
Mike?
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Thanks, Mike. Melanie?
None for me, thanks.
Colby?
Yeah, I guess my only questions, and probably the only reason I ask now is we probably have more people listening. It would be curious to hear what the experience from your end has been with the mask ordinance thus far.
Well, the experience with the mask ordinance is it falls on both sides, and you have people that are very defiant, and it's against the Constitution and prohibits their rights and First Amendment. Then you have the people on the opposite side that are extreme, that it's going to save the world. And so what we try to find is the commonality in the middle. And we've done a lot of education, as we normally do with this. This is not something that we're trying to just go out and enforce and do. The businesses in town have been very supportive of it for the most part. We've asked for a continuation, or we've been asked for a continuation of it from numerous businesses. We are being inundated with phone calls through dispatch services reporting violations within businesses, within parks and things of that nature. And there are so many calls of people calling us that we simply can't respond to all of them, not with the staffing levels that we're currently at, having 6 patrol officers. It's just not something that we can handle the volume of calls. So if we're in the neighborhood, we'll stop by primarily with businesses and such. When they're requesting assistance, those are the ones that we're going to work out with. I've had individuals stop into the police department and ask why we aren't enforcing it. I've had other individuals stop in and ask why we are enforcing it. So we're seeing all sides of the spectrum.
Yeah, I could imagine. So do you have any feel for, general compliance with it around town?
Generally, what we're seeing is the compliance are the locals. For the most part, it's the locals are very supportive of it. The residents are very supportive of it. You'll see the different demographics that are very supportive of it. Where we have an issue is, of course, as we've always said we would have the issue, are with the visitors that are coming into town from somewhere else. They're on vacation. They want to be on vacation. And what we see is in the shopping setting, when people are shopping, they are much more likely to adhere to the mandate and wear the mask, such as in the businesses and such. And it's almost a peer pressure thing because they see the majority of people. What we find the difficulty in is in the social setting, when people are being social, whether it be most likely outdoors, but in close contact with each other, or having dinner with friends. They may be outside, but they're still in close contact with each other, some even sharing glasses of wine. And here, taste this. We see that quite often. The biggest issue that we're going to have, I'm afraid, is going to be with the younger population. And we are starting to see that, an increase in that demographic from 17, 18 to about 23 and 24. It's summer. They are having their summer parties or get-togethers, and it's hard to be cool or to have those parties, if you will, wearing the masks. And so we are definitely seeing a sharp increase in the number of infections with that particular demographic. And that worries me because not only is it our resident population, but it's also our workforce population that comes into town for the summer. Those temporary seasonal workers that are here, that are socializing, that are in housing for the workers and such in those particular confines of bunkhouses and things of that nature. And it's exactly what we said it was going to be. We're seeing an increase in those. And so that does worry us.
Great, thanks. That's all I had. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Good work.
Thanks.
Thanks, Justin. Our last department is Public Works. Nathan Stewart, any questions from Tom for Public Works?
None at this time.
Mike?
I don't have any questions.
Melanie?
Hi, Nathan. One question for you on the Park Street project. I feel like we probably talked about this, but can you re-educate me on why we're redigging?
Well, there's been a lot of redigging downtown. Can you speak specifically to where you're talking about?
I think it has something to do with septic potentially on Park Street.
Yeah, yep. So on the east side of Park Street, between 3rd Street and 2nd Street, that road was somewhat stabilized and the curb and gutter and some of the sidewalks was in. And then just in the month of July, you saw them redigging a large portion of that. That is the relocation of the pressure sewer main that runs down Park Street and then runs up in between the library and City Hall. And we were waiting patiently to see how the bond measure would pan out for the library, in the hopes that that would provide some more formal direction. And we had to wait until that bond election was delayed until June. And so once that bond election was done, then we could finally decide on a formal path forward. And so we had that construction occurring. And they should be finishing that work up. I know they backfilled this week, so the road is hopefully getting put back into place. And they're talking about paving the first week of August.
Was there some sort of new grant involved? Did I hear something about a grant?
Not for the pressure sewer main, nope.
Okay. All right. Well, thank you for answering those questions.
You bet.
Colby, any questions for Nathan?
Yeah, I guess just a follow up on the having to wait for an election to figure out where to go. What's that going to pose for the future? Are we going to have to dig stuff up again?
No, that was really the discussion, was that how we would be able to fund it. The initial the goal was that the bond measure would help fund that project, but because the bond didn't pass, we then had to dig into city funds, city campus funds, to make sure that we could fund that, so that we did not have to get back into Park Street at some point in the future should campus development, whether it be the library or other improvements where that pressure sewer main is on the campus, be impactful. So we've relocated that pressure sewer main to what we've determined is the best, most usable location for the campus. And when you see it being completed, it will be graded where what we envision will be the final location of that pathway will be within the railroad right-of-way. It moves the pathway as far to the south as possible to maximize the development potential of the parcel.
Great, thanks. How's everything else going down there?
You know, we're in the fourth chapter of construction. This is phase 2B, which is occurring on Park Street between 3rd and 1st. I don't want to give, I'm almost nervous to say things are going really well, but I'm proud to say that they're going really well because we've had a lot of struggles and challenges with the unknowns of the underground infrastructure of the years past and the weather challenges we had last year. So on Park Street, things are on schedule, even with the introduction of that pressure sewer main project. Tremendous amount of coordination with the franchise utilities, Idaho Power. You saw in the month of June and July, all of those overhead utilities get removed. Earlier this week, you saw the overhead utilities in the alleyway get removed. A tremendous amount of cooperation and patience with the property owners and businesses there to have services interrupted and then brought back with new underground services. So all that coordination happened and we're still moving forward there. That's not to say it's not impactful to the businesses, but I'm happy to see it going well. I think the community is cooperating and understanding how not to walk into a construction zone. We're much more robust with our fencing and things like that. And although Annette gets to watch it every day out her window and cringe sometimes, I think as a community as a whole, we're getting better at handling formal construction in our urban center.
Yeah, we're just, it's a way of life around here now, I guess. How's
right?
How about the Jasper subdivision? Any updates on that?
You know, that's going really well too. Warrington Construction has a reputation for getting in and getting out as fast as possible. That there's always challenges in those older subdivisions. There's a lot of trees that are located in the public right-of-way that have been problematic for our streets department for years. So as we reestablish some swales and ditches to make sure we've got snow storage, things are changing there. But by and large, things are going well. We have some small challenges with some franchise utilities located in the right-of-way in an unorganized fashion, and we're working through that. But the project's well on schedule and should be wrapping up in the next month.
Great. And this, I guess, comparatively to the other phase of the Jasper subdivision, how's the neighborhood? Does everyone seem to be fairly content with it, or are we getting some pushback on it?
You know, I think there are some neighborly concerns. They're starting to come to the surface. A lot of that has to do with just trying to understand what's going on and trying to make sure that we can explain why we have to do what we're doing. So I do have a few individuals I'm trying to meet with. There's a new home on Boydston Loop that has a site plan that's been changing, but I'm optimistic we can work through those concerns.
Great. Thanks, Nathan. I appreciate it. Keep up the good work.
You bet. Thank you.
Thanks, Nathan. Thanks for answering all of our questions. With that, we have completed the department reports, and we're going to move into our work session. The work session is for the library expansion, next steps, and it is listed on our agenda as an action item. So the way this will roll out is Annette will present some options for future initiatives, including timeframes, considerations for the election dates. We're then going to hear from Jackie Rubin, who is the chair of the library trustees. She will offer the library board's perspective. And we'll have a pretty robust discussion. We've allotted or budgeted roughly 30 minutes for this work session. And at the end of the work session, the expectation is that City Council will offer direction and feedback to staff and set the next steps for future council meeting agenda items. So with that introduction, Annette, will you lead us on?
Sure, thank you, Mayor Giles. So you'll see that on your screens, we have folks that have joined us for via video feed. So we have Aaron Greaves, our communications manager, Meg Glojek, the library director, and Jackie Rubin, who's the chair of the library board of trustees. And so I'm just going to set the stage here and mention that we're going to hear mostly or a chunk of the time from Aaron first. But as you know, we had our library bond election in May of 2020. The results, as was mentioned by Nathan in relation to the sewer project, weren't known until the beginning of June. And after we got the results, council asked us to do a survey of the public, an informal survey to gauge the issues that the voters, both positive and negative, what they saw about the ballot measure. And so we're going to have Aaron go over what happened with the survey and what we learned from it. And then I think we can hear from Meg and or Jackie, however they want to do it. They've had discussions at the Library Board of Trustees and included a short memo for the council in your packet about their thoughts. And then in closing, we can talk about timing. And so I just want to make sure that the council understands that we're not expecting the council to make a decision about what the next library project physically is going to look like. We just want to give you the feedback that we heard from the community, talk to you about timing primarily around when generally you think we would want to potentially ask the voters again this question. And so I will just start off before Erin gets into her results, recommending to you that a November general election this year would be extremely difficult for us to accomplish. And I believe the Library Board of Trustees made a comment in their memo to that effect. But at the end, when the council's discussing, we can talk about timeframes and realistic expectations for staff on how to move forward with the project. So with that, I'm going to let Erin go over the survey results with you and discuss those findings.
Thanks, Aaron.
Okay. Hi. So good evening, Mayor and Council. We did a little research into cost and timeline, looking into all of our options to run this survey. We had some grand ideas to do some phone calls and different things like that. But in order to get you a timely response and to be good stewards of the dollar, we opted to do a local grassroots survey, which proved to be really successful, in my opinion, of surveys we've run in the past. We basically received 844 passersby of respondents into the survey, and we broke them up into a few different categories. The survey ran for 2 weeks. It began June 24th and ended on July 13th. We closed it and we advertised it in the newspaper, on social media. We sent it to our email database as well as the library's email database. And those 844 responses came in and were broken up into a few sections. The first being the voters themselves, registered voters within the city of Mccall that had the ballot listed with the library on it. Those that voted yes, those that voted no, and those who registered to vote but were unable to vote for some reason. And then the following, we wanted to give an opportunity for our users of our library that might live outside city limits to make sure that we reached everyone that was a library user. So we broke those up and asked good questions in the beginning, and then had some targeted questions underneath each. And I know you've had an opportunity for the last few weeks to look at those survey results on your own without any detail from me. And I think that's important for you to have a non-biased view of those results. But I did take the time, a lot of time digging in to each one of those survey comments. And I actually color coded and tagged each one of them because a lot of them had some overlap. Some people were concerned about cost and parking as well as location. And so what I did is I broke up each of the survey responses, the written responses that were in addition to your percentages, into things like timeliness and COVID related, design concerns, costs, tax impacts, alternate location wishes, whether or not we needed a library or they saw the need for the expansion of the library, parking concerns, the other offices or buildings as a part of the project. We also looked at investments into other projects, like could your money be spent in better places? And then some people were just either uneducated on the process or chose to remark generally. And so those were not tagged. So with that, I learned quite a bit. I did actually forward this summary to all of your emails, so you have it available to you if you want to read through it afterwards. I sent it out tonight at 5 o'clock. So the three, I wanted to, in the interest of time tonight, because I know you have a lot to talk about, just concentrate on the three main emerging topics that came out in the survey. So the first was cost. The second was need. And the third were the additional city buildings and service concerns. So I'm going to give you a quick summary of what those told us and then tell you what I think that is leading you towards. So the cost itself was an overwhelming concern. The majority of people had some severe apprehensions about unnecessary tax burdens. You know, why were they paying for something that was used by people outside the city limits? More than 81% chose cost as their number one reason for voting no. So 81%. So in addition to that, we got another 27 comments that actually cited cost as a major deterrent, so that it was just simply too high and funds should come from somewhere else other than them as a taxpayer. So that was cost. The second was need. So the need was cited in many areas as a leading factor, not only as a no vote, but also in whether or not they would change their vote from a no to a yes. So people just were not clear that they saw the library expansion as a needed investment. Many noted it as an extravagant cost or that it was too large of a space, and that money could be used in other areas for other projects like streets, sidewalks, etc. So the last piece was the additional city buildings and services. And so what I'm referring to is, although it was a small group, it was mentioned enough that I think it's worth you looking at. The fact that the survey showed that the facts surrounding the park's relocation and the need for us to utilize the space there to enlarge the library footprint, it didn't make sense to voters. They didn't understand why that was a part of the bond. And so I think that I put in the notes here that we probably need to clarify that for people because we chose a larger space for our library, which then displaced our parks program. So that was definitely a question out in the community. Why were we including that in the bond? And it just wasn't clear. I know that we had a lot of interruptions with the COVID issue as well as the absentee ballot issue. So we weren't able to do a lot of our one-on-one communications with the public that we had hoped to kind of lay out these major strategic issues that we knew were going to be a problem. I'm pleased with the way that, you know, our outreach came out and how successful we were in a really difficult time. But I would definitely see some changes moving forward in this new sort of virtual environment we're in. So just to summarize those three topics, the cost, the need, and your additional buildings and services, I put the cost as a concern and it directly relates to the need. Because what we saw is that consumers will pay for something that they value. If they saw and perceived your library as something that was an essential service that complemented their lives, it would then counteract that cost issue because people are willing to pay for things they feel like they're going to use and benefit from. So The other thing was to recognize that governmental trust is always going to be an issue in any election. And so anything we can do to be completely transparent about the city services and to assure that the benefits of the library building itself were for citizens, not to just enhance staff life, and that all of those pieces over there at the library were actually to serve our community better. So those are some things to think about on the way forward. The other portion of this before I open for questions was to just kind of give you some ideas of kind of the way forward and other ways we might communicate with our public, depending on whether you choose to go for a November or a May election. Obviously, for a communicator who wants to find out more from your community on how we can serve them, I prefer a longer timeline, but I understand if you choose to go with a sooner election, we would definitely need to make some quick changes to our mission and how we outreach to the community. I was thinking that we would do some sort of a group engagement, kind of a charrette style, and concentrate on each of those 3 topics that I just discussed. Break down, for example, cost. Okay, well, what is a cost you're willing to pay? What do you need to see as a value for your cost? And ask some really directive questions. The second piece would to concentrate on what services they want to see out of their library and to make sure that the new library design is accommodating those services that our public wants, to make sure we're answering the right questions for our public as we enter into another election. We also talked about doing some online sort of town hall Q&As, possibly with our design group, to answer some important questions, things like the labor building that came up, questions like our adequate space, or why we have a second floor, or why are we taking down the parks building. So some smaller group conversations to really answer those questions. And those would be a virtual environment that would be recorded so that people could actually go in at any time throughout the process and hear those answers for themselves from our designers, our staff, etc. So that's kind of what we got out of it. I'm happy to send you any other information that you need, or my color codings. If you want to look at my scratches, I'm happy to send those to you. And I can open it up for any questions you might have.
Great. Tom, questions from our presentation?
Nope, not at this time. I think Aaron covered everything concerning the survey. Thank you.
Thanks, Aaron. Mike, questions for Aaron?
No, that's an excellent report and a lot of very valuable information. Thank you.
Melanie, questions?
I agree. That's it. I mean, it's really interesting to know how that kind of broke down into 3 groups. But right now I'm still processing and I don't have any questions just yet. So.
Thanks, Melanie. Colby?
No questions. I was impressed with the participation and feedback on that survey. There was definitely got a lot of information back. Just looking forward to hearing what the library folks have to say.
So my quick statement, Aaron, is, yeah, it sounds like we're probably going to be more successful in May, and great report. Let's move on to hear from the library. Meg, did you want to go first, or is Jackie going to present from the Board of Trustees? However you would like to proceed.
I can present. And then if Meg wants to add anything, is that good, Meg?
Great.
Okay, so assuming you can see and hear me. Okay.
Yep, you're coming through great.
So we had a board meeting and Bob was there and Meg and of course the library trustees, and we also had Amy Rush representing the fundraising portion. And the library board was disappointed that we didn't, of course, pass the bond, but encouraged with the 64% of yeses that we did get. So we are definitely encouraged and on board to go forward. As far as our opinions about how we should go forward, I think we are also in agreement with, sounds like Annette and with Aaron, that November is much too soon, because we do not want to just go present the same bond with the same library and costs that we have presented in May, that we need to make some changes to a proposal, and that's how we're going to pass it. So in order to make that happen, we need to wait to May. We do not have time now to make changes to the bond. As far as what will happen for May, the library board is still committed to the footprint that we would like to see happen, the amount of space that we think is needed from all our studies, that we don't need a smaller building. But we do think that in order to pass with a 66 and a third percentage, that we would like to separate off the Parks building. That was a cost that really upped the bond amount and was not, I don't think the public was behind us as far as including that in the bond amount. So that's, of course, that's not our decision. That's a city council decision, and how that would happen is beyond our control. But as far as the support from the Board of Trustees and from the foundation and from the fundraisers, the contributors that have already put up the $2 million and continue to fundraise for a new building, we would like to see the bond go forward without the additional cost of relocating parks. So Meg, would you like to add anything? Wait a minute.
Hey, Meg, I think you're on mute.
Sorry, Mayor Bob. I don't have anything to add at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Well, there's probably some questions and some from council. So let me go through council and ask them to, they can direct them to you, Jackie, or to Meg, or to Annette. Tom, questions for Jackie and the Board of Trustees?
Oh, I guess I'm interested to see some of the changes that we're looking at making and hearing some of the recommendations from the board.
Okay, Mike?
So yeah, just for clarity, Jackie, so we are, you're going to regroup, and so the whole team is going to come together and regroup and work towards putting a revised plan back on the ballot in May. That's what we're working towards, and that's what you guys think is best. Is that what I'm hearing?
Take it on, Jackie.
Yes, we would like to come back to the board with a revised plan, but I want to just let you know that as far as relocating parks to another building that's beyond the library board, that really needs to be the city to figure out how that would happen.
All makes sense. I appreciate everybody's work, and we'll get there.
Melanie, questions for Jackie and the board?
You know, I'm just I'm sitting here thinking that I'm looking forward to this session where we, can discuss some opportunities for change that will, suit what Jackie just said. And then just, I guess my brain is just going through the process of, moving the parks department and not including that on the bonds. So I don't really have any questions. That's just where I'm thinking right now.
Thanks, Melanie. Colby?
Gosh, I don't know if I have really any super specific questions as, I'm definitely curious as to, what changes you might propose. And clearly the big discussion point we have is the parks building and how to proceed with that. And I guess where are we in the parks building reality right this minute, that everything just came to a grinding halt on that, correct?
Sorry, here I am. Yeah, we don't have any funding to move the parks staff, build that shell building we had proposed, or to demolish the annex. So what I think Aaron was trying to describe and what I would recommend is that we need to do some deeper dives with the public around what exactly it is that they're willing to support, so that we bring forward a successful concept. And so if we have time this fall to do these deeper dives, focus groups, virtual town halls, basically re-engage the community again on the library concept, that'll help inform us on how to, or what types of variations of the original concept. That would be really useful information. And I envision we would have a couple more work sessions with council to fine tune that and get to a space that you feel comfortable with. So there's lots more to talk about this project. The other being, just the financial reality of the city, and that will drive the timing of when we would recommend going, or when I would recommend going to the bond, because I would not want to take a concept to vote, have it passed, and then the city can't afford to move the parks building if that still needs to come down. I mean, we have to be realistic about how we would finance something like that if it's not the bond, and if they still need that space for the footprint. That will drive the timing of any election, because the city will need time to make that happen and find the money. So there'll be a lot of issues and challenges we'll have to work through in order to bring back good concepts for you. And of course, we'll engage the council along the way and the library board. I think tonight's check-in was, let's hear about the survey, and then also just make sure that the council was comfortable with the idea of us taking more time to go through this deliberative process to come up with a new concept, and you weren't anticipating a November election. And that if you're comfortable with that, then we can move forward with continuing to develop these ideas for you to bring them back to a future work session, with the thought that we may be able to do an election next May, or whatever the time frame seems to be that makes the most sense depending on the outcome of these community discussions.
Annette, this is Bob. I think the council's on board with that process that you laid out. It seems very reasonable, and it seems consistent with the survey results. So let me ask two pointed questions. I'm going to go through council rotation, and I'll ask you, do you support the concept that Annette, this process that she outlined, which I think is fairly clear? And along with that, the earliest election we'd look at for the bond would be May of 2021. Tom, let me start with you.
I agree with both of those. I think we got to re-engage with the community and kind of relook our plan and the size of the plan, the scope of the plan. So I think the earliest we'll be ready is May 2021. So
thanks, Tom. Mike?
I absolutely support the process and support the idea of working towards a May bond election.
Thank you, Mike. Melanie?
I'm fully in agreement with that.
Colby?
Yes and yes.
Thanks, Colby, and I agree with that as well. Thanks for doing some good staff work on that. I really appreciate it. And Jackie, thank you for giving us a real succinct report from the board. Aaron, appreciated your written report that we got this evening, along with your verbal report. So I think the council's excited to work with all of you and figure a good path forward to make this successful.
Yeah, I think the staff, Meg and her staff, the fundraising team, the Yes Committee, there were a lot of people that put a lot of work into this effort, and I wouldn't want them to feel that they weren't appreciated or successful, because they were definitely appreciated, and I think it was successful. We got very close, and we have a really, really good foundation to build from. So I'm optimistic, and I think we have a fabulous community that will embrace, you know, the right concept for them. So I think it's definitely worth putting the time and energy into it to keep it going.
Thanks, Annette. All right.
Thank you, Annette.
Thanks, everyone. We'll move on to our business agenda. Our first item is the Ponderosa State Park Restoration Project presentation. And I believe that Matt Lind is going to be presenting us information. Welcome, Matt. Matt Lind, from Ponderosa State Park, can you hear me? This is Mayor Bob.
Well, I see somebody with an initials of ML, but I think that might be Meg Lojack. So,
Yeah, I don't see Matt on. I sent him all the information. He confirmed that he received it. I can try calling him.
Okay. Thanks, Bessie Jo.
If you want to move on to planning and zoning.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion. So we have a written planning and zoning annual report, and I'm not sure who from planning and zoning will be providing that, but if you could introduce yourself, we want to welcome you and look forward to hearing your annual report.
Hi, so this is Morgan, city planner. Fallon Faraday, our P&Z chairperson, was going to try her best to make it on tonight to present the annual report, but she said 7:30 or later, so we're a little early. So I will go ahead and give the report. If she ends up logging on, she can take over for me, but I don't see her in the list. Fallon, are you there? Okay, so I will just go ahead and get started. I sent out the annual report for the Planning and Zoning Commission today. The commission did lose a city representative last winter, and the seat has remained vacant. It's been sort of a surprise because over the last, the 5 years I've been here, the Mccall Area Planning and Zoning Commission has maintained a full membership, and we've actually had, at different points, numerous applicants for each seat. So it's been kind of surprising. We've noticed it several times. We did finally just get a letter of interest, so we're hoping that at the August meeting, the commission will make a recommendation, and you will be seeing a recommendation to fill that seat shortly, you know, after 7 or 8 months. So we're hoping to finally get a full commission again. In 2019, P&Z reviewed 136 land use applications. This was a little bit lower than the previous year, but we brought in many more dollars than the previous year. Last year was a pretty good year for large subdivision applications and PUDs. This year, our numbers are up, but our dollars are a little low. There's still time. Things have cooled off a little bit with, you know, this kind of uncertain economy. We still are getting numerous applications, so keeping me busy. But they're looking like smaller applications, lot line adjustments, applications for single-family homes, lakefront homes. But I'm not seeing as many subdivision applications or PUDs this year. So I think that accounts for the drop in dollars. But the number-wise, I think we're on track to meet last year's numbers for number of land use applications. We are excited. We've been working on lots of code updates. And P&Z is excited about this next batch. This next batch of code amendment drafts that you guys will see tomorrow morning, I believe, deal with development standard and codifying our design guidelines. So the design guidelines are something that the Planning and Zoning Commission deals with all the time, every month, every single month. They look at design review applications, but they are the final sort of approval body for design review applications. So those don't go to city council. So you guys don't often see those. So we're really excited that, you know, all of our planning and zoning commissioners want to participate in this work session tomorrow, because they're much more familiar with the design guidelines that they deal with on a much monthly basis than you guys are, just because you guys don't get the opportunity to see those applications. So we're excited for that joint work session coming up and for codifying some of these design guidelines to just make it a little bit firmer with our code instead of having them be recommendations. Each fall, the Mccall Area Planning and Zoning Commission usually has a training or a social. They've gone out on the boat on the lake. We've taken little bus tours around town to see our scenic routes, or to, you know, to look at our shoreline, to look at different things. Last year we had a little award ceremony for a good landscaping plan, and presented a little award and had a little social and a little training. This year, unfortunately, again, with social distancing, that's on hold, but we've been trying to provide some training opportunities to the commission. There have been some great webinars by, was it AIC? Or I forget the acronym, on land use. And we've actually had a lot of commissioners participating in these free land use planning webinars, and I've gotten responses from them that they're really learning a lot and they're really excited. And they're excited to take that knowledge forward as we discuss code amendments as well. So that's exciting. So social distancing might be happening, but we're still doing trainings. And along the same lines, the Idaho Planning Conference is every October. It was going to be held in Boise this year, and we had some commissioners that were interested in going, but it's moving to an online format. And I think that's just going to make it a lot more available to, you know, council members and to our commissioners and to anyone that's interested in having maybe a more convenient training and picking and choosing their sessions and not having to drive to Boise. So we're pretty excited about the number of training opportunities with this year, as well as everything that's coming up in the near future. Do you have some questions for me?
Tom, questions for Morgan?
Nope, none at this time.
Mike?
No questions, thanks.
Thank you, Mike. Melanie?
None. Looking forward to the work session. Thank you.
Thanks, Melanie. Colby?
None for me, but we'll be talking tomorrow.
Yep, and I ditto that statement. Look forward to tomorrow's meeting. That should be great with P&Z. Thank you very much, Morgan, for pinch hitting and filling us in on that on late notice. All right, we're going to move on to the request to adopt an ordinance to vacate a portion of Roosevelt Alley. And that's something we've talked about as a council and made decisions on. I think we approved it on May 21st. So this is a follow-up to make this formal. And I was going to ask you, Morgan, are you going to be the presenter for this?
I am here if you have questions. I don't have a lot to present. As you mentioned, this did come before council on May 21st and was approved. The parks agreement, the escrow agreement, and the findings of fact were approved. We did not have an ordinance at that time. We did not have a legal description. The surveyor had not done a legal description until he knew that this was going to be approved, because there was some uncertainty with a variance application, because they are sort of a discretionary action. So now that we have the legal description, we have had our attorneys draft an ordinance to make it formal. So that's all there is.
Thanks for that background. I looking at two items here, the agenda bill and then my script. Bessie Jo told me there was some really important material in here that I needed to read. So let me make sure I've got this correct. Okay, so we'll have some discussion on this, and then when it's time to make a motion, I will ask for two motions. The first one will be to suspend the rules and read by title only. one time only, ordinance number blank. And Bessie Jo, do we have a number right now that I can pencil in for this ordinance?
Yes, it's 990.
990, ordinance number 990. And then the second motion, after we do that and read by title only, then we would adopt ordinance number 990 to vacate portion of Roosevelt Alley as approved in application VAC-19-01 and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. So that's where we're headed with this agenda, Bill. We do have a draft ordinance. We do have approved findings that are in our project file and in our meeting agenda packet. So let me ask council if they have any questions that perhaps Morgan could help us with. Tom, I'll start with you.
No, I don't have any questions.
Thank you, Tom. Mike, you good to go?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Melanie?
No questions. Thank you.
Colby?
None from me.
And none from Mayor Bob. So I will look for a motion to suspend the rules and read by title only, one time only, ordinance number 990.
Can we say so moved? I don't have that verbiage in front of me.
I believe you may do that.
Okay.
So moved.
Second, Colby.
Thank you, Colby. Thank you, Melanie. A motion has been made and seconded to suspend the rules and read by title only, one time only, ordinance number 990. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Holmes,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Mccormick,
Yes.
Councilmember Sowers.
Yes.
Ordinance,
The motion passes. So Bessie Jo, would you read by title only, please?
certainly. Ordinance number 990, an ordinance of the city of Mccall, Valley County, Idaho, vacating an unnamed and unimproved city alley which dissects 1207 and 1209 Roosevelt Avenue and 1210 Louisa Avenue in the city of Mccall, Idaho, reserving any utility easements on said vacated property, providing for the retention of current zoning on said vacated property, and directing the city engineer to alter the use and area map accordingly.
Thank you, Bessie Jo. So I would look for a motion to adopt ordinance number 990 to vacate a portion of Roosevelt Alley as approved in application VAC-19-01 and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Bob, so moved.
Thank you, Melanie. Is there a second on that motion?
Yeah, I'll second it.
Thank you, Colby. And just so council's tracking along with me, the language I used, it is the same as what we have as our recommended action on our agenda, Bill, so you can track that. Motion has been made and seconded to adopt ordinance number 990 to vacate a portion of Roosevelt Alley as approved in application VAC-19-01 and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Holmes,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Mccormick,
Yes.
Councilmember Sowers.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion passes. we will move on to our next agenda bill 20.
Mayor, if I may interrupt, Matt Lindy is on. His phone was just muted, so he is now ready to present if you're ready for him.
Yes, welcome, Matt. Good to hear from you. We just skipped ahead a couple of items. Let's go back, and we look forward to hearing your presentation on the Ponderosa State Park Restoration Project.
Sure. Can everybody hear me now?
We can, Matt. You're coming through great.
Okay, super. I apologize. I'm not a regular user of Microsoft Teams, so I kind of struggled there. Anyway, for those that don't know, my name is Matt Lindy. I'm the park manager out at Ponderosa State Park, 1920 North Davis Avenue. So, yes, good evening, guys. Mayor Giles, council members. I wanted to come before you tonight, give you an informational heads up on some development projects that are going to take place in the park this coming fall that will affect us and our community. I'll be as brief as I can, and I'd like to open it up at the end for questions. So I've got 4 projects I want to run through. So at the end, if you have questions, I'd be happy to answer those. For start.
That sounds great, Matt. Please proceed, and then when you're done with the 4 projects, I'll make sure that we have time for some good questions and dialogue with you.
Sure. Okay, so for beginners, this one won't affect too much of the city, but we've got one of our camping loops, one of 5 camping loops that's going to have utilities upgraded in it. So it'll be closed down to the public, and utilities will be upgraded in that starting September 8th. And I don't see that affecting the city too much, but that's the first project. The second project is phase 2 and 3 of our paving to the point. We've done phase 1 already 2 years ago, and we finally got the funding tied up to do phase 2 and 3 of the Point Road. So beginning September 8th, that is the day after Labor Day. So we've chosen to go as in our slower time of the year. Phase 2 and 3 will start September 8th, paving to the road to the point. So the Point Road will be closed to the public. It's only going to be open to our contractor to get up there and pave that section of the road. They anticipate finishing before the snow falls. Our third project is we're going to do some boat ramp improvements. We're going to fix some of our deep draft boat ramp issues that we've had in the past, replace some docks out there. So starting October 5th, we are going to close that boat ramp down completely to the public, and they're going to rip and tear a lot of concrete out, put a new pier in, and fix some stuff, much needed stuff there. And that will happen again October 5th. We should have lost enough water at that point. Lost enough water at that point that we can effectively get in there and fix that, what we need to do. I have contacted the Mill Harbor Yacht Club and May Marina and let those folks know that have the sailboats that's going to be affected the most to make a plan by October 5th to get their boats out because, yes, after that date, we will have it closed down. The last one we expect to do sometime late November, early December. We're waiting for snowfall for this project to start, and that's the handout you should have received in the packet that is our Ponderosa Pine Restoration Project. So that one is slated to start in November, early December. We want to wait till we got about 12 inches of snow on the ground, or we've had sufficient frost so that we can protect the ground as much as possible. We've got about 825 million board feet. We're going to pull out of that shaded yellow area that's just on the other side of our shop near our campgrounds. That one is going to mostly consist of removing, we're going to mostly remove grand fir out of there and leave Ponderosa pine, Douglas fir, western larch, and a little bit of lodgepole. So that's kind of our goal, is to restore that to historically what it's always been. That one I can see affecting the city a little bit more, as well as us, with logging trucks. We're going to have quite a few logging trucks going up and down the road. So I thought I'd get in front of you guys this evening and kind of give you a heads up before our public information officer kind of blitzes everybody with a package that's going to go to the Star News, that's going to go to the Statesman down in Boise, telling them of the projects that we have going here. So I just wanted to give everybody heads up that these projects are going to take place this coming fall. So with that, I will happily answer any questions from the council.
Thank you, Matt. Hey, really appreciate the heads up. Your handout was great. And of course, we worked with Dennis Coyle here, and he was, I think, one of the pioneering efforts on getting some of that restoration work done. And the work that's been done in the past looks terrific and real consistent with the goals of the park. So with that, I'm going to open it up to questions from each of our council members. Tom, I'll start with you. Questions for Matt Lindy?
No, I don't have any questions. Thanks, Matt.
Mike?
I don't have any questions, but I certainly appreciate the information and the communication. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Mike. Melanie?
No questions from my perspective. It's a well laid out plan. I think all the dates look great too. So.
Thanks, Melanie. Colby?
Yeah, thanks, Matt, for communicating with us and keeping us in the loop. I guess the only question I have would be regarding your Nordic operations out there this winter. How do you feel like that's going to affect you with the logging?
You know, I think it might, Colby. I believe it's going to get into the front end of our season. We typically start operations sometime around the first or second week of December. Talking with IDL, they believe a logger can get in there and remove what we need to get removed within 2 weeks to 4 weeks. And so I think it's going to affect the front end of our season, and I'm anticipating another public outreach as we get near to maybe October, letting our Nordic population know that for the first at least quarter of our season, we may have to push it to other vendors in the valley that can accommodate your needs.
Thanks, Matt. That's all.
Matt, this is Mayor Bob. Good work on that, and we wish you well. Thanks for coordinating and giving us the courtesy of a really good briefing. We appreciate that. Wish you well on that. And I don't have any further comments, so we will let you go and move on to our next topic.
Super. I appreciate the time of the council. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matt. So our next agenda bill is 20-205, a request to approve the consulting services agreement with Bill Flood for a Mccall public art plan. And this is an action item.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This is Delta James, Economic Development Planner. As you know, I coordinate the public art program for the City of Mccall in partnership with the Mccall Public Art Advisory Committee. The Public Art Advisory Committee has identified the need for a plan for the placement and prioritization of future public artworks within the city. To date, since the committee was formed in 2012, public art has been placed mostly as opportunities have arisen. But they would like to be a little bit more strategic in how the public art collection develops over time. And so have sought the services of a professional planner to help them develop a public art plan for the City of Mccall. The cost is $24,000. The bulk of these funds all of the funds are currently available in the FY20 budget for public art, and the bulk of them are a result of cost savings that came from the Lardo Bridge project when a National Endowment for the Arts grant was provided to that project. The Public Art Advisory Committee issued a request for qualifications for consulting services and received applications from 5 different public art consultants, all of them highly qualified. They reviewed all of the applications and qualifications on a quality-based review process and unanimously are recommending to enter into a consulting services agreement with Bill Flood. Bill Flood is a cultural planner and public art planner from Oregon. He works in a lot of rural communities. He has extensive experience in reaching kind of underserved populations and doing really community grassroots-based planning. He is on the line tonight with us. And also on the line tonight is Claire Remsburg, who is a Public Art Advisory Committee member and the past chair. And so she's here too. And I would invite either one, maybe we should start with Claire if you want to maybe chime in on why you see the Public Art Advisory Committee wanting to proceed with public art planning.
Hi, everyone. Well, we feel it's been a few years and we have built our collection. We have come a long way in getting our feet wet in public art, and it's a high time to revisit a master plan for our public art to identify locations and priorities, and again, to get the public involved in what they're looking for with public art. How's that?
Thank you, Claire. I also, before I ask Bill to introduce himself, I just wanted to quickly outline the scope of work, which is expected of the consultant services agreement. So the planning process would include community outreach. Of course, during COVID-19, that is a bit challenging. It would have to be utilizing remote and socially distanced means. Bill has brought onto his team a robust qualifications in social media and surveying and outreach to try to do our best to reach the community kind of through these means that are safer than the typical ones we would use for public meetings and things like that. He has also revised his proposal to address the utilization of remote and socially distanced meetings. So that is included as an exhibit to the agreement in your packet. Also, the consultant team would review existing public art guidelines, policies, and processes that we have in place for the City of Mccall and have been utilizing since 2012 to make sure that they are still valid and the best practices for today. And of course, there would be a process to identify and prioritize potential public art project sites for the future, as well as action strategies for public art projects with estimated budgets to give us an idea and fundraising benchmarks into the future. And then also look at public and private funding models for municipal public art programs so that we can get a sense of how our fellow cities and public art programs are being funded and how we might adapt any of those standards. And then, of course, looking at maintenance, upkeep, and replacement, and how we care for our public art collection, and also making sure that our process for decommissioning public artworks is valid today. So that's the scope of work. The agreement has been reviewed by the City Attorney's Office, so should be good to go. And with that, I would ask Bill if you just want to introduce yourself quickly, maybe talk about your team that you have and anything else you want to quickly add.
Welcome, Bill. Thanks for joining us tonight.
Greetings. It's an honor to be here. What should I say in just a couple minutes? So I think I want you to know that you might be saying, how can this, who is this guy and how did he accumulate these skills? So I've always been a community development practitioner. What makes me different than most community development practitioners is that while most work in economic development and housing and business development and what we typically think about as the hard side of physical side of communities, I'm obsessed with local culture and how we identify, build, and support local culture toward building stronger communities, toward goals of community improvement. So that's basically my approach to everything. So my practice involves a lot of strategic planning and evaluation and research and project management, teaching, training, and so forth and so on. But it's all from this community development framework. What I share with other community development practitioners is that a lot of my work is about engagement. It's not just top down. I'm the guy that's going to tell you what to do. I've been doing this for over 30 years, so I have acquired knowledge and skills, but I'm going to bring those to you all. And like I said, I've worked really hard since in the last 2 months, all of my work is public facing. So I've worked just really hard. I've shifted like you all have, and learned a lot the last 2 months about how to do public facing work in these basically new technologies. I think the committee and the Delta has really done a really comprehensive job of figuring out what they want to do. And I really am honored that you've selected me. Oh, the team also, Amy Westhover is Idaho. Actually, Amy, I believe, was from Mccall originally. She's a really well-regarded public artist in Idaho. She's on my team, especially to kind of review everything through my process, but specifically on site selection. I have a communications marketing consultant, Liz Hill, and then a social media consultant, Zach Brosman, who are going to advise, again, working with the city and your capacities around how to engage people now. And I also have a researcher and person really good in survey work. So that's, I think that's enough from me right now. Delta, anything else I should touch on?
No, I think that's good for now, Bill. We'd be happy to answer any questions that the council might have.
Okay. So again, welcome, Bill. Claire, thanks for your perspective and all the good work that your committee works on. And Delta, thanks for leading us through that. I think we're on board with this, so I'm going to ask a very pointed question of each council member. You've had a chance to review the paperwork. This seems like a great fit. So the question I'll ask you is, are you on board with making a motion or voting for approving this consulting services agreement? Tom, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's in line with our plan. So I think it's fine.
Thank you. Mike?
I'm on board.
Melanie?
I love good guidelines and strategies, so I'm on board.
Hey, thanks, Melanie. Colby?
Sure. So I guess regarding funding, you said this is from remaining funds from the Lardo Bridge art project.
Correct, Mayor. Correct, Councilmember Nielsen. These are funds that are currently available within the FY20 approved budget for the public art program. And they are a result of carry forward from previous years, primarily due to an offset in the Lardo Bridge project cost, because we received a grant from the National Endowment for the Arts for that project.
Got it. Thank you. And then I guess regarding current projects going on, are you, I was reading through the proposal. I mean, it looks like you're going to be working with the current project happening with the downtown core and our next agenda item as well. So of course, when Amy is on that item.
There is some complexity because we have two quite large public art programs occurring at the same time, but there's also opportunity there in collaboration. So this will help, I think, boost public engagement also in those other two projects, the downtown core public art project that the Laidlaw team is working on now, and then also the urban renewal public art project. They will be working in tandem as a team. In fact, Amy Westover, who you'll consider a contract for in your next agenda item, she will be directly on Bill Flood's team for the greater public art planning for the entire city area, as kind of while she looks at the urban renewal district as well. So there are some efficiencies that we gain by running these projects together.
Great, thanks for the clarification on that. Yeah, I think that's probably all I've got.
Thanks, Colby. This is Mayor Bob. I'm good with the proposal. I would look for a motion from council to approve the consulting services agreement with Bill Flood.
Bob, this is Melanie. I'd like to make a motion to approve the consulting services agreement with Bill Flood for the Mccall Public Art Plan as recommended by the Mccall Public Art Advisory Committee and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Thanks, Melanie. Is there a second?
Second, this is Colby.
Thank you, Colby. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the consulting services agreement with Bill Flood for a Mccall Public Art Plan as recommended by the Mccall Public Art Advisory Committee and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Holmes,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yep.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Machezik,
Yes.
Councilmember Sowers.
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion passes. Delta, we'll move on to the next art topic, and that is, let's see. Yep, Agenda Bill 20-206. This is an agreement for urban renewal public art project. Take it away.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. Thank you first, Bill and Claire, for joining us. You're free to go or you're free to continue to listen in if you'd like to. This next item is a request to approve an artwork commission agreement. It's for a project within the existing urban renewal area. As you know, that area is sunsetting in 2021. The Mccall Redevelopment Agency has allocated $100,000 to commission public art for placement within the urban renewal area. So we issued a request for qualifications to Idaho artists, and we got 9 responses from qualified Idaho artists, which is quite good, I thought, during these times. All fantastic applicants. A volunteer 5-member artist selection committee convened, reviewed all of the qualifications, and unanimously recommended Amy Westover for the project, and her proposal and qualifications are in your packets. The Artist Selection Committee, the volunteers that participated included a member from the Public Art Advisory Committee, that was Susan Farber, a member of the Mccall Redevelopment Agency Board, which is Tabitha Martineau, Nikki Dyson from Mountain Java joined us, Dave Petty from the Parks and Rec Advisory Committee joined us, and Lisa Wood from Bella Kitchen joined us. So we had some great representation on the team there, including business owners from the Urban Renewal District itself. At the last Urban Renewal Board meeting that was just Tuesday, the board there unanimously approved the Artwork Commission Agreement on behalf of the Mccall Redevelopment Agency. This is a 3-party agreement in that there's the artist is one of the participants in this agreement, the redevelopment agency, and the city are all parties to this agreement. It has been reviewed by the city attorney's office. Essentially what it does is it tasks Amy Westover with doing the following scope of work. First, she will identify and prioritize opportunities and locations for public artworks within the existing urban renewal district and produce a report on potential sites. So you can see how that will be valuable and inform the greater Mccall Public Art Plan down the road. She will utilize that information to develop at least 3 design proposals for final public artwork to be located on 1 or more sites within the urban renewal district. Those proposals will go out for public comment, and then based on public comment and feedback from the Mccall Redevelopment Agency, and upon approval of the final design and proposed locations, the artist will then fabricate and install artwork within the urban renewal area by the time that the urban renewal district sunsets in September of next year. So it's kind of a quick project, but Amy wanted to join us this evening but was unable to, but she wanted me to express that she's very excited about the project and really looks forward to working on it. She comes with a vast background in working with design and engineering teams, with community input, and with public art that both interprets a site, like historic interpretation of sites, and or is integrated within greater projects, like street projects, sidewalk projects, and she's excited to look at the opportunities with the shoreline restoration that is planned to occur near Brown Park. So with that, I'll stand for any questions.
Thank you, Delta. Tom, questions for Delta?
I don't have any questions.
Mike?
No questions, thank you.
Melanie?
Looks fantastic, no questions.
Colby?
No questions for me.
No questions from me. Let's proceed to a motion to approve the artwork commission agreement by and between Mccall Redevelopment Agency, City of Mccall, and Westover Artworks.
So moved, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second to that motion?
Second, this is Melanie.
Okay, thank you, Melanie and Colby. So the motion has been made and seconded to approve the artwork commission agreement by and between the Mccall Redevelopment Agency, the City of Mccall, Westover Artworks, LLC, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Machezek,
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Sowers,
Yes.
Thank you, council. The motion passes. And Delta, I think you're on for 3 more items with us. You're on a roll, so I'm gonna let you keep going. Our next item is Idaho Humanities Council grant application, public library, I believe.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is a request to submit an Idaho Humanities Council grant application on behalf of the Mccall Public Library for an outdoor story path and author's visit. The concept is it's based on sort of a national or international example of sort of walking and reading, and it's appropriate to these times where signage is placed along a pathway and storybooks can be read as you walk along a stretch of pathway. The books are displayed, and often there might be guided walks with authors or other guests along the way. So the story path from Mccall would install up to 16 signposts containing laminated picture books or a set of local history records along the pathway starting from the library, behind the library, and extending down the railroad right-of-way pathway. It's been planned in conjunction with Parks and Rec to provide removable posts that would accommodate winter snow removal. The total cost for the project is a little over $8,000. We are working on the in-kind match calculations for that grant request, but not more than $2,000 of the library's budget allocation for next year would be dedicated as match to this project. And if Meg is still on the line, I'd invite her to add anything I might have missed.
Yeah, thank you, Delta. I'm here, and I think you've done a great job presenting. And like Delta said, the library staff is working together with Parks and Rec and with Public Works just to consider all the facets of installing some posts along the pathway there. But we're real excited to be able to pursue this. So thank you, Delta, for helping keep us organized. And if there are any questions, I'm here to help answer.
Great, thank you both. I'm going to run through the list real quickly. Tom, any questions for Delta or Meg on this grant request?
Nope, I don't have any.
Mike?
None, thank you.
Melanie?
Yes, all good here.
Thank you, Melanie. Colby?
Looks like a good project to me.
Looks like a good project to me too, Delta and Meg. Thank you very much for bringing that to us. I'll look for a motion to approve submittal of an Idaho Humanities Council major grant application from the Mccall Public Library outdoor story path and author visit, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
So moved, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Melanie. Motion has been made and seconded to approve submittal of an Idaho Humanities Council major grant application from the Mccall Public Library outdoor story path and author visit, and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Machete?
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes?
Yes.
Mayor Giles?
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen?
Yes.
Councilmember Sowers?
Yes.
Motion passes. We'll move on to our next item, Delta, and that is the Payette Lakes Progressive Grant Application for Mccall Public Library.
Thank you, Mayor. You will probably remember this project because we submitted a grant application to the McCall Donnelly Education Foundation for this same project, and I'm pleased to report that that grant was awarded. This is a project initiated by 13-year-old Mia Ryder. She's a 7th grader at Payette Lakes Middle School, and she's a cadet Girl Scout with McCall Troop number 255. The book bike project is literally a mobile trike that is customized as a mobile library and will allow volunteers and staff to provide mobile library services to school classrooms or community members or to daycares or others that might not frequent the library. The total cost of the book bike is approximately $3,500. $2,500 of that came from the McCall Donnelly Education Foundation grant award, and so the remaining $1,000 we would like to seek from the Payette Lakes Progressive Club in this grant application.
Thank you. I doubt there's any questions for you, but let me just open it up. Council, are there any questions for Delta on this, or are we good to go for a motion?
I think we're good.
I think we're good too. Okay, we'll move ahead. I look for a motion to approve submittal of a Progressive Club grant application.
I move we approve the submittal of a Progressive Club grant application for Mccall Public Library mobile bike book and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Thanks, Colby. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I think Mike got that one. So we've got a motion has been made and seconded to approve submittal of a Progressive Club grant application for a Mccall Public Library mobile book bike and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Machezek,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes,
Yes.
Councilmember Sowers,
Yes.
Motion passes, and thank you, council, for your attention on that. Delta, I think we're on to your third and final item for at least for tonight.
Yes, Mayor, thank you for sticking with me here. This is a request to submit a grant application to the J.R. Simplot Company. It's their corporate grant program. The total cost, this is a project initiated by the Women's Golf Association, and it's to establish a paver plaza that's about just over 1,000 square feet area that's northeast of the golf clubhouse, and it's kind of this island that's between two golf cart trails back there. The location is surrounded by those paved cart access places, and the plaza is envisioned to be surfaced by pavers that are available to the public for engraving, similar to how the Centennial Plaza was done. It's anticipated that people will, with connection to the golf course and others, will want to have their names engraved on pavers. If all 3,500 pavers that are needed for the plaza are purchased for engraving at a net donation amount of $80 after expenses, it would result in significant fundraising to the golf course of a little over $250,000. So I think that Eric might be on the phone too, and I'd invite him at this time to add anything else.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. We've been talking about something like this for the last couple of years, and it's an area that since Banyan's has taken over the restaurant, likes to use to set up tents during tournaments for food place. We've envisioned putting a sail up there so it would be a shaded area in the summertime. It's also our snow storage in the wintertime, so we worked out to where if we use a permeable paver that we could remove the benches and plant material in the winter time and then use that to store snow. So it level it up. It's irrigated weird because it's irrigated with big sprinklers off of the tee boxes, and that water all runs then down in and settles in next to the number one tee. So we could clear that up to where we wouldn't have the irrigation issue, and it would make a nice area for people to gather when we can gather again.
Great. Can you describe it to us again, Eric? I looked at the packet and I'm the aerial view, but I'm a little spatially challenged.
So if you're familiar with where the mailbox is that has the scorecards in it down there, it's that little grass triangle there with the boulders in it. And we've actually removed some of the boulders so that Michael could set up tents in there because he does a barbecue, but it drops about 24 inches from the south side to the north side, and they would basically make a 2-foot wall on the very end where people could actually sit on the wall and watch people tee off. And then so it's directly northeast of the clubhouse.
Great, thank you. Council, any questions for Eric or Delta?
None, Mike.
Okay, Tom, any questions?
What's the benefit, Eric?
It cleans up an area that's tough to maintain right now. Carts kind of meander in through there. We need to either tear it out and regrass it to keep it as a grass spot. I think the benefit is helps the restaurant out where they could have a good area to barbecue down there, and then it's also be a shaded place where people could sit and watch golf. And it cleans it up for us.
Do you think it will increase revenue?
Well, yeah, especially selling the pavers, that would be a revenue that would certainly come back in to pay for other projects on the golf course.
Okay, thank you.
Melanie?
So Eric, would the carts still be going around this triangle area to move through? And do you feel like that might cause an issue with people mingling in that area or just being on foot with the cart traffic?
I don't think so, because a lot of times that's covered anyway with people they'll park on the grass and be around in that area anyway. And most not that big a crowd there. And usually when it is that people were able to work. I don't see that as being a problem.
Thank you.
Colby, any questions for Eric?
Yeah, I guess just reading over the funding for this is depending heavily on the grant. And then the women's and men's golf club would pick up the remaining $12,000. That's how that's planned to go, or what would happen if we didn't get the funding?
Well, so the ladies have already raised it to 12,000, or part 9,000, I think, and then they figured on selling so many pay the limited amount they start with. It'll generate quite a bit more. So it really depends kind of how the pavers go. So they were looking to try to get somewhat of a grant and work from there. So this is kind of a jumping off point. They haven't started selling pavers yet because they didn't know if they had support from some sort of a grant or something.
Gotcha. And so the funds from the sales of the pavers are going to the golf associations or to the city?
Hey, Eric, we just lost you there. Maybe you know the answer, Delta. It seems like in our agenda bill, once the project of $38,000 is completed, any additional revenue from the pavers would go to the city, to the golf course. Is that correct?
The intent is that the revenue would support golf course improvements. I don't know that Eric has figured out exactly which entity would receive those funds or keep them. I expect that it would come to the city, but in the end, the intention is to support golf course improvements with any money raised.
Thank you.
And then finally, one last question: is the golf course restaurant concessionaire been approached to help support any of this, since it sounds like this is an area they would be using frequently to generate revenue for them and for the city?
Council member, I don't know the answer to that question. I would defer to Eric, and unfortunately, I think we may have lost him.
So council, do you feel that you do have enough information to make an informed decision on whether we should, apply for this grant, or do you want to wait on this?
Can you hear me now?
Oh, there he is. He just texted me that he's back on.
Great. Go ahead, Delta. You can maybe rephrase that question for Eric.
Sure. Eric, the question from Council Member Nielsen was, has the restaurant been approached to provide support for this project, given that they will utilize the plaza?
Okay, I don't know if he can't get through, but he did text me, and Eric said that yes, Banyan's Michael has been approached, and he said he would participate.
Thank you, Lynette, for translating that. That's encouraging that we got another partner. Okay, Colby, does that answer your questions? You feel we can proceed with making a motion?
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, thank you. I'm good with it as well. I look for a motion to approve the submittal of a grant application to JR Simplot.
I move we approve the submittal of a grant application to JR Simplot Company for the Golf Club Plaza project and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Thank you, Colby. Is there a second?
Second, Mike.
Thank you, Mike. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the submittal of a grant application to JR Simplot Company for the Golf Club Plaza project and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Mccormick,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes,
No.
Councilmember Sowers,
No.
The motion passes. Delta, are you joining us tomorrow, or do you have time off to work on other things to get all these grants submitted?
Mayor, I will not be joining you tomorrow, but I look forward to participating in the code update review.
Well, thank you. And thanks a lot for your help tonight.
Thank you for bearing with me, all those agenda items. Thank you very much.
Those are all important things. That was great. Okay, I think Nathan Stewart's up next. We're going to be looking at Thompson Avenue construction agreement.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor Giles, Nathan Stewart, Public Works Director. Tonight I'm here to present a unique construction agreement for Thompson Avenue. As the council is well aware, there's an approved PUD on Thompson Avenue between Park Street and Ann Street. And that project is moving forward. It's been under construction now for over a year. The city, back in May, attempted to bid out a larger road construction project that would go up and over the hill, or up at least to the top of the hill on Park Street. And just for everybody's information, Park Street, that goes east off of State Highway 55, goes up and over the hill, and as it comes down the hill, it extends to the east. But Thompson Street, Thompson Avenue, is actually the paved portion that basically everybody drives on. So as you drive down that hill, you go from Park Street to Thompson. So this proposed agreement is a joint effort, city and private venture, to cost effectively complete a relatively small portion of our streets infrastructure in a coordinated manner that's most cost effective. Because back in May, when we did bid out a larger portion of Thompson and Park to be constructed, the bids we received, we only received one bid, and the bid was tremendously high. I presented that to the council. I think it was somewhere around 70% over the engineer's estimate, and with staff's recommendation, council rejected all bids, and so that project was dead in the water. But we quickly pivoted to try to figure out how we could get road improvements done in front of this project so that we didn't have significant investment by the developer that would leave a cobbled together road. And I'm going to share my screen to kind of show you the different aspects of this project. So I will scroll down past the agreement to some images. So just for the council's perspective, originally when the city bid out the project, we were going all the way to the top of 4th Street. And in doing this, the idea was that possibly the city could do the improvements that the developer was going to do, so that we would only have one contractor, and we'd be coming up with a unique development agreement in that manner. Instead, we left the development agreement as is, so the developer is required to do their improvements. And over time, working with this developer, we were able to establish this agreement. So as I scroll down to a closer image of the improvements, and bear with me, everything will come together here in a second. I can show you the simplified version here. So the work that's being proposed is between Park Street and Ann Street on Thompson Avenue. And the Thompson PUD is required to build this new sidewalk and put in street lights at the 2 corners here to build this on-street parking and this bike lane. And that's where their obligations ended. They also had a significant number of cuts in the asphalt, and so there was some obligation for them to repave those as well. So in between those cuts and various things, the city was going to be left with those improvements. So what we've done here is created an agreement in which the developer will complete their improvements, the sidewalk, the on-street parking, and the bike lane, and then the city will come in and fund the additional improvements, which are the drive lanes, both east and west, as well as the eastbound bike lane. In addition to that, we'll be constructing a roadside swale along the south side of Thompson between Ann, reestablishing the ditch that was originally there probably 20 years ago that has filled in over time, replacing private property owner culverts and creating a uniform drainage system through here that will connect to the city's system. So that's the nature of this agreement. And I wanted to show one more image, which is in your packet, which is the city's cross section here, and give you a perspective of cost. I think this is a beneficial, teachable moment. We deal with tremendous costs in street reconstruction, and this shows you a cross section of what the road will look like. And as I adjust it to our screens, you can see on the north side of the road, the sidewalk will be constructed here. We'll have a rolled curb, which is favorable for snowplows, this on-street parking, a bike lane, 2 drive lanes, another bike lane, and then a fully formalized established swale. This is really beneficial not only for snow storage, but also to make sure that the drainage and any water that will infiltrate into this road section over time has a place to end up down in the ditch. That's very important for preserving road integrity. And it also adds to the cost because we have to go down almost 30 inches to get to this level. We're showing the different depths here. And this road was constructed historically by just randomly filling in a low area that was ponds and wetlands. Talking to some of the locals that have grown up there, it used to be kind of a wet area that kids used to play. And then this road came in. So unfortunately, when we did a geotechnical analysis, the unconsolidated fill in this road required that we dig down all the way to this level and bring in a new full section. It would have been terrific if we could have just pulled off the asphalt and put a new section on, but that would have been premature because the expected lifespan of that asphalt is unknown, and nobody would kind of get behind what they would be able to guarantee a lifespan for it. We would have the potential for road failures or rutting. So that's my little tutorial for tonight about road construction and a perspective of cost of what we're looking at. We're doing the same thing in the downtown core where you're spending millions of dollars per block. And that's because we have significant streetscape improvements. On this road, you still have some formalized streetscape improvements with the sidewalk and a curb and gutter and some stormwater facilities, but the second half of this street, with the exception of a bike lane, is more traditional, and those costs come down. That said, we still do have costs to deal with, and this project proposes to use about $245,000 of the city's funds. So the agreement has been prepared with White Peterson. It stipulates the obligations of the developer, Kurt Marostica, and his company to ensure that the contractor gets reimbursed. There's a formal method in which a licensed civil engineer will review all of the construction and approve any work that's been done. A pay application will be prepared, which both that engineer as well as myself will approve. And then upon approval of that, the city will reimburse or pay, excuse me, Kurt Marostica for that work to be completed. I think this is a very unique situation. I think it's a very favorable situation for the city from a financial standpoint. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions.
So Nathan, thanks. It seems like a lot of stuff came together, some good, good cooperation with Kurt Marostica's group and some good thinking with city staff. So thank you for bringing a good solution to us. Tom, any questions for Nathan?
No, it sounds like a really good plan.
Mike?
I don't have any questions. Thanks.
Melanie?
Yeah, actually, so is it Kurt Marostica's company that will actually be doing the road work?
No. Falvey's LLC is the contractor that Kurt has been using for his entire development. Falvey's LLC had given Kurt costs over a year ago for his portion of the road improvements. So that was a unique component, was understanding how we could get into this without increasing the developer's cost. And so in the discussions we had immediately following the rejection of bids, we approached both Kurt and Falvey's LLC to see if Falvey's was interested in completing this work for the city. Falvey agreed to that. He provided a detailed bid proposal. It's actually more like a bid schedule that we provided him that follows the project specifications and the plans that were prepared originally. Falvey's LLC did not originally bid our project because our project he felt was too large for his commitments this year, but because we pared that project back to about 40% of the work, he felt more than comfortable to do that work. So Falvey's LLC will do the work. Crestline Engineers will inspect that work as well as all of the work going on with the Thompson PUD. And then Kurt Marostica and his company will pay Falvey's LLC for the work, and the city will pay Kurt Marostica so that Kurt Marostica and his company can pay Falvey's. Are you following me?
I'm following you. I'm not quite sure I understand why we would be filtering the money or the funds through the developer. Why aren't we just paying them directly?
There's a couple reasons for that. There are a number of bidding requirements and procurement requirements that we have to go through. There's an extended period of time in which we would need to do that. There's also the fact that we went through that process and unsuccessfully were able to find a reasonable bid that we felt was acceptable. So we exercised that option, the public procurement option, and that was not favorable for the city. So in this manner, we were able to determine that we could not successfully find a responsive bid because we could have awarded a portion of this project and not awarded the whole thing back in May, but we couldn't even do that because the cost for the same amount of work as proposed through the public procurement process was not twice, but probably, I don't know exactly, I don't want to speak exactly, but significantly higher than the cost that Falvey's LLC is providing us through Kurt Marostica completing the work. This is very common. When public entities try to perform public works construction, the costs go up. When the private sector completes public works construction, the costs go down.
Okay, thank you.
Colby, questions for Nathan?
We'll just kind of keep along that line of questioning. So are we paying for the sidewalk and the bike lane and the parking portion?
We are not.
How does that work?
No, and I'll share my screen again so you can understand this. Let's see here. We'll go desktop. We scroll back. Bear with me for a second. And get back to the agreement. Okay. What this portion of your packet shows is two different portions. The Thompson site off-site improvements, this is Thompson Place, so this is your PUD, and this is the remaining work. So all of the sidewalk, curb and gutter, street lights, electrical conduits, bike lane and parking lane costs are in green. All of the city's costs are in red. And it comes down, you can see the two totals.
Gotcha, that makes sense. Then I guess what's the overall cost for the mega ditch? I mean, swale.
You know, we don't have that broken out. It's kind of embedded in these components here. I wouldn't be able to tell you that off the cuff. There's a portion of this excavation. There's a portion of topsoil and seeding. There are culverts involved.
Oh, got it.
Yeah, it's I would say probably about 30 to 50,000 of that 200.
Got it. So not enough to extend pavement a little bit further down the street.
No, because unfortunately, what we've learned through the geotechnical analysis is that we need to put a full section in when we put pavement in on this street.
Okay, I don't have any questions for today. Council, are we ready to make a motion? Your agenda bill has the suggested wording. Would someone make a motion to approve?
Yeah, this is Tom. I'll make a motion to approve the Thompson Avenue construction agreement and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents and authorize the staff to manage change orders up to 10% of the initial agreement amount.
Is there a second?
Second, Mike.
Thank you, Tom and Mike. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the Thompson Avenue construction agreement and authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents. Authorize staff to manage change orders up to 10% of the initial agreement amount. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Sowers,
Yes.
Councilmember McKezick,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes,
No.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yeah.
The motion passes. I suggest we take a 5-minute break and then Nathan will get back together to talk about the Davis University water main and water resources application. So let's see, official time right now is 8:21. We'll try to resume at 8:26. This is Bob. It's 8:26, so we'll get started. Our next agenda item is a request to approve the Davis and University water main upgrades project recommendation for contract award. Nathan, are you helping us with that, or do you have a consultant that's leading us through this discussion?
Good evening, Mayor Giles, Nathan Stewart, Public Works Director. You get me again. So tonight I'll be presenting the bid results and the recommendation for award for our our University and Water Main, University and Miles Standish Water Main project. So this is a pretty simple project. It's been identified in our water master plan. I'm going to take advantage of the fact we're all on computers and I can add some information to your packet by trying to show you an overview of the city's water system. This is an area of town we're all familiar with. Miles Standish is extended from Davis as you go into the state park. And as you pass the visitor center, which is over here where my cursor is, we have this interesting loop, a private road, some private parcels, and then the Moss campus. And this water main throughout this area is undersized. And it's also a dead-end line, which means that the fire flows that we can provide for the fire department are not sufficient, and the water quality can be problematic if there's not a lot of water use that's happening on the end of this line. We do have a blow off that we can blow it off every year, but that doesn't always help in between those periods. So this project essentially will connect a water main from Miles Standish over to University Lane. In doing that, we will increase the flow capacity of this system as well as improve water quality. We had hopes that we could team up with the Moss campus at one time to do some improvements that they were going to do on this line, but that project's on hold. The other thing that this project does is it provides better opportunity to provide water flow to the state park if and when the state park ever chooses to take advantage of the city's water system. We've had discussions with the state park over the past few years, and they have contemplated that because a lot of the water that that they provide their state park is off of wells, which are not always consistent or reliable. So we did complete the bidding, and in your packet are the bid results that we received. I will quickly transition to that. So actually I can't do that. I guess what I will conclude with is that we're happy with the results that we received. Milestone was the responsive low bidder. That bid price came in right near the engineer's estimate. Look forward to getting this project done. We're working with the state park and Department of Lands for a final easement on this water main. They've given us the temporary construction easement, which basically greenlights their intent to give us the final easement for this water main, and I'll be working with local state park staff to establish that. Happy to answer any questions.
Tom, questions for Nathan?
No, I don't have any questions.
Mike?
No questions, thank you.
Melanie?
So in seeing the residential area that's right there along Lakeside where this
Sure.
starts, will their residential services be affected, and for how long?
The residential services will be affected only during the tie-ins. So the way water mains are constructed, we'll construct the main, we will test it, and do all of those things while we leave the water on here, and only during the connections when we tie in here and when we tie in here will we have to impact residents. I don't have intimate knowledge of the valving system, but I think there's a great opportunity where we can probably isolate this line and leave water service to these residents the entire time. I can't guarantee that because sometimes you get on these valves and they don't close because all of this infrastructure is at the end of life. But our goals and our intentions in managing the project will be to minimize any shutdowns to private residences.
Okay, and have they been notified at all that we're looking at doing this?
They have not been notified until the moment you choose to award this project, then we will be notifying those residents. Most definitely. We send out letters and then we also do individual meet and greets with both the construction management team and the contractor.
Okay, thank you.
Colby, questions for Nathan?
I guess just a follow up for Melanie's. What's the time frame on this project?
If awarded, this project would start after Labor Day.
Thanks. That's all.
Thank you, Colby. How long, Nathan, if it starts at Labor Day, is it like a couple of months before freeze up?
No, it's really simple, Bob, because we're going, we're not in a road, we're going across country, so there's no significant trees that we need to remove. We have 2 weeks penciled for the contractor to complete the work.
Great, thanks. All right, would someone please make a motion to approve the construction contract for the Davis and University water main upgrade?
Mike, I'll make a motion to approve the construction of the Davis and University water main update.
Is there a second?
This is Melanie.
Thank you, Melanie. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the construction contract for the Davis and University water main upgrades project to Milestone Construction Group, LLC of Idaho, in the amount of $99,133. Authorize the mayor to sign all necessary documents and authorize city staff to manage change orders up to 10% for the initial contract amount. Did I get that right, Nathan?
Yes, sir.
Can I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Matezek,
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Sowers,
Yes.
Motion passes, and we're on to water resources application. Nathan, are you helping us with that, or is that Kurt? Let's see. I think my little script says maybe Kurt Wolf will be helping me. It's Agenda Bill 20-201.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. This is Kurt Wolf, Parks and Recreation Director of the City of Mccall. Can you all hear me okay?
Yes.
All right. So the agenda bill in front of you is one you've seen before. We're just reapplying for another round of temporary water use through the storage through a storage water rental from Water District number 65. We did this for the last couple years to revegetate portions of Riverfront Park down near the Sheet Bridge and mitigate erosion. We'd like to continue to do so, especially north of that site, and complete the shoreline work that we did through the DEQ 319 work over the last couple winters. So happy to answer any questions. It's pretty straightforward. We've got a pump set up down there by the river, tied in with a temporary irrigation system. And again, it's just to reestablish native grasses and some of the trees that we planted through a Rotary grant last year. And again, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Kurt. Questions from Tom?
No questions at this time.
Thanks, Tom. Mike?
I don't have any questions. Thank you.
Melanie?
None tonight. Thank you.
Colby?
No, none for me. Looks good.
None from me, Kurt. Good work on this. Will someone please make a motion to approve the Department of Water Resources application. And then there's more verbiage if you could read the full motion before you make it, please.
I move we approve the Department of Water Resources application for the temporary approval of water use through a storage water rental from West District number 65 or Water District 65 for Riverfront Park and approve the mayor to sign all necessary documents.
Thank you, Colby. Is there a second?
I'll second that. Bob,
Thanks.
this is Melanie.
Thank you, Melanie. A motion has been made and seconded to approve the Department of Water Resources application for temporary approval of water use through a storage water rental from Water District number 65 for Riverfront Park and approve the mayor to sign all necessary documentation, excuse me. May I have a roll call vote, please?
Councilmember Nielsen,
Yes.
Councilmember Holmes,
Yes.
Mayor Giles,
Yes.
Councilmember McKezick,
Yes.
Councilmember Sowers,
Yes.
The motion passes. We are now on to the 2020 Rapid Broadband Master Plan. So Chris Curtin, will you help us with this?
I sure would be happy to do that.
We've been looking forward to this. Thank you for hanging in there. It's we've really been looking forward to this presentation.
Thanks for having me. Chris Curtin, Information Systems Manager. This is the 2020 Rapid Broadband Master Plan presentation. Included in this conversation are two members of our consultancy team.